Hey guys, so I just kind of wanted to make an unedited raw footage today of just me talking because that's something I've really enjoyed lately on YouTube, or other people's stories of just them talking, and I'm thinking there's probably a lot of other people out there that are also interested in that. So I just got back from work and I'm just gonna kind of wrote down some notes because I just did this video and it was totally messed up and boring and long. So hopefully I'll keep this on track. And so today I'm going to be telling my OCD story, obsessive compulsive disorder, if you don't know. I hope some other people who have it are watching and are interested in my story. And I hope some people who don't know about it are learning about it maybe today, because I think there's a stigma with it, and I wish there wasn't such a stigma with mental illness, because you can be a normal person and have mental illness and live your life just like anybody else. You just have challenges that other people don't. So I wanted to start out with when I started. I have been an anxious kid ever since I was young, and my mom always said I was an anxious baby. I was anxious from the start, and I think it was just building up for years and years because I didn't have full-blown OCD symptoms till I was 10. That's when they started. And my first symptoms came, I was afraid of being poisoned. That was my first obsession. I was convinced it was happening all the time. So I was spitting a lot, like in my skirt at school, in the water fountain, next to the wall beside my bed at night, because I was afraid there was poison in my mouth. So I wanted to get it out. So I was spitting constantly, which probably looked pretty weird to all the kids at school, and they probably thought I was completely strange. But they just didn't really know what was going on. I didn't even know what was going on. My parents didn't know. We didn't understand where that came from. And it wasn't until a year ago I found out what triggered it. I watched the movie, I don't know, it was a movie about Ruby Bridges, and I guess kids were poisoning her at her school. And I guess that triggered me, and it's kind of sad to look back and think that's like one little thing, one movie that my teacher showed one day at school caused me to develop OCD. Although I'm a true believer in that I would have developed it either way. It was just a matter of time. And I believe that for people with OCD. I think it's just gonna happen eventually for some people, and you don't know when. But I mean, some people don't get it till their 20s or their 30s, and it's very random. I don't understand it at all. I don't know if there's little kids who have it, like 4-year-olds. I have no idea. But all I know is how old I was, and my own story about what happened. So 10 years old, I was picking around my food. I was afraid my food was poisoned, and was picking through pepper and things like that, thinking they were poison. And I just was convinced that was the reality. I did outgrow it. I don't know how long it took, but I don't do that anymore. I don't have that fear anymore. And I just got over it, I guess, which happens with OCD symptoms sometimes. My symptoms now are not the same as when I first was diagnosed with OCD. Speaking of that, my diagnosis, I don't remember when I was diagnosed. I'm assuming it's around the time of when my symptoms started, because my parents thought it was strange and they didn't know what was going on with me. And so I think they took me to several therapists, I think. And I think they couldn't find out what was going on with me, which seems strange because it seems Hallmark OCD to me now, just looking at a book or just knowing the symptoms of OCD. And I think they thought I was schizophrenic for a little bit, because I remember them asking me about it, and I would say there's voices in my head that are telling me to do things, and they wondered what that meant, I'm sure. To me, that was kind of more of like a feeling, like my own voice saying, like, wash your hands, or like, watch out for this food, it could be poisoned, because it wasn't schizophrenia. And eventually they figured that out. So I've been going to a therapist since I was very young, 11 maybe. I don't remember when I went on medication exactly either. That was around probably 11 or 12, I'm assuming. But I'll talk more about that later, because that hasn't really changed. So another symptom I remember happening, which is a very strange symptom. If anybody knows someone who has this, or you have had this before, let me know, because I haven't seen it anywhere. So I would do this compulsion where I would write down everything my body felt. So if I had like a little twinge in like my muscle, or felt an itch or felt, I mean, you know how you kind of have weird body feelings? If you really think about it, you have little weird body feelings all the time. And I would write them down. So I would have little papers that would say Ellen's, or my, not Ellen, but I would say my arm twitched or something. And I was convinced that if something was ever wrong with me, they would take this slip to the hospital and be like, here we go, like, we know what's wrong with her. Her arm twitched. And and I thought that was logical. But that was really bad. I remember for a long time I would write it all over everything, just papers everywhere with these sayings on them, like my finger popped, or I would have these weird little phrases too, like popping. I would always feel like popping sensations, or something tingled or something like that. So that was something that was pretty bad for a long time. That I also grew out of, thank God, because I feel like the compulsions that have stuck around are kind of manageable in everyday life, as much as they can be. So the compulsions that have developed throughout this time and that I have persisted today are hand washing. I do that all the time. I'm constantly thinking that I can change something, like something bad's going to happen, but I can change it by hand washing. That's kind of my thought. Or I feel like I'm contaminated. So that's kind of your typical OCD compulsion and obsession. And then I also do a lot of retracing through doorways, retracing, like reading a book page twice, or like turning on the TV a couple times before I feel like it's right. That's what they always say, like in OCD terms. It's like it has to feel right. And that's kind of what I do. It's not something that people necessarily notice. I'm very good at hiding it if I don't want people to know. People in school, in college, I'm sure didn't know. High school, probably not. Middle school, I think I was worse at hiding it, like the spitting into my skirt. But I'm kind of at the point where if I want people to know, I'll let them know. And otherwise, they don't. I make excuses for my symptoms. Like I have to go to the bathroom, which is why I have to wash my hands. So sometimes I have to go to the bathroom a lot, or I have to blow my nose, and or I have to. There's something on my hand, but there's really not. Kind of just excuses so people don't know. And I think it's worked for a long time. The thing is, though, I'm not really embarrassed about it at this point. It's just not something that I care to tell everybody. It's like a big, something you're going to have to explain. You can't just say it and then not have a follow-up story. So sometimes it's just easier not to. So a lot of times I just don't tell people. Some people know. If somebody ever asked me directly, I would say yes. I don't have any problems with that. If somebody has problems with me with having OCD, at this point, I just don't care anymore. I'm old enough where I don't want you in my life if you care. It shouldn't be a problem. So, and we've gotten to the point, too, in my family where we joke about it a lot. And my parents always know when I'm doing something, even if they see right through my excuses. So, at this point, they can tell when I'm doing things and try to get me to stop them. So I have been on medication since I was probably 11 or 12, as I said. I've been on the same medication for that long. Luvox, it's called. And it's an SSRI, which is prescribed a lot for depression or OCD, anxiety, those sort of things. And it works sometimes, doesn't work sometimes. I don't ever know. I always still have OCD. It doesn't go away. And I also recently went on a medication called Abilify, which is an antipsychotic, which actually has been working really well. And it works faster than an SSRI, which is nice because SSRIs can take weeks, and sometimes you're just already so miserable from doing compulsions that you just want it to be faster. It worked faster. So that's been working pretty well. That I only recently started with maybe like the last 6 months. My psychiatrist put me on it. I'm not currently in therapy, but I am in therapy at times, just to talk about it. It helps, and it just helps to keep up on it. And I went to intensive outpatient therapy too a couple years ago when I was a junior in high school, which definitely helped. And although I've fallen back into my old ways, in a lot of ways. Although it did help me beat some fears. Like cleaning toilets. I remember I couldn't touch a toilet. Now I could care less about touching a toilet. I'm a nurse, and I touch things all day long that are disgusting, and it doesn't bother me anymore. But if I have a bad thought, I still have to wash my hands. It doesn't really make sense, the contamination side of it. But I hope that's pretty much all I wrote down that I wanted to talk about. I hope some people who have OCD watch this and just enjoyed listening to someone else's story. I hope some people who don't really know much about OCD have watched this and maybe learned a little bit, because it's not just all people who organize things and need things to be in a certain order. I have never been like that. I'm a very messy person. People with OCD can be messy. And I just think it's nice to be able to hear other people's side of things sometimes, and yeah. So if you have any questions, comment below, message me. I always like talking about it. I would love to be like an advocate for OCD, or like a speaker or something. I think that would be really cool. Just kind of show like you can still live a full life with having OCD, because I think it can be kind of discouraging sometimes to people. But that's kind of all I had to talk about. So I hope you guys have a good day. Let me know if you have any other questions. Subscribe if you'd like. I'm trying to make more videos, maybe more like this where I just sit and talk, if you guys like those. It's kind of, I'm doing this for myself, but I'm doing it for, I just think it would be cool to be able to talk to an audience, and just to feel like not alone all the time, you know. I just think being a YouTuber is very cool. So we're kind of seeing where this goes. Okay, well, have a good rest of your day. Bye.